Welcome back to this week's wrap. This week, we talk about all of last weekend's Champion and Challenge Cup action from the four Welsh regions. And we also look forward to next week and see whether or not we can improve from 1 in 4 matches.
Hello, Nosratha. Welcome to the wrap. Hello to our regular presenters. How are you, Hattie?
I'm all good. I've got my lovely Black Friday deal on, £16.
It's very nice.
Thank you.
And that's through gritted teeth, obviously, but it
You
suits you
had
very well.
£16 and you were like, oh, that's the deal.
Unfortunately, tonight is not a Dragons victory pod for a proud man of Gwent. But Dan, have you recovered from Abertillery absolutely battering Penallta 1915 at home on Saturday?
Well, yeah, we needed that. Yeah, it wasn't quite a battering. It was one for the purists, that was, I can tell you now, because Friday night it was touch and go as to whether we were even going to get a game on. The weather's been
Apologies, Friday.
absolutely pants, hasn't it? So, in fairness, there's a load of volunteers that went down. And both teams wanted to play, really. And the reason why we wanted to play is because no one wants to be playing in May,
No.
in reality, and the season dragging. So both teams wanted to play. Load of volunteers down, in fairness to them, fork in the ground, scooping the buckets of water off it. Borrowed a roller off the local cricket club. I got everything sorted and playable. And yeah, they had 80 minutes worth of mud bath. And yeah, we managed to scrape home with a much needed 4 points. So yeah, good on the boys.
Good. Congratulations to Pau in Abertillery.
Thank you.
Okay, if you're watching on YouTube, you'll notice a new face on this evening. Harley is not able to make it this evening, so it's a very, very warm welcome to Tony, who I have heard on the Cardiff Central podcast. How are you, sir? And can you
I'm
tell us a little bit about yourself?
I'm good. That sounds ominous. So I'm Tony. I have had a season ticket at Cardiff since 1998. My dad took me to the first Rebel season game back then. I'd been to a couple of games with school and stuff like that before, but walking out of the ground after we'd beaten Saracens to a chant of "Are you watching Vernon Pugh?" and that sort of just cemented the club in my heart. Listening to Dan talking about forking the pitches before a game. There was a European game back in the day when we were meant to play Sale, and the club put a call out for loads of people to go down with shovels to shovel snow off before a game and stuff like that. And yeah, it's just yeah. There was a couple of years where I just followed every game around Europe as well. Just did everything I possibly could to spend all of my money watching rugby, basically.
Well, there's worse things you can do, I'm sure.
Yeah,
Okay,
just paying for it now.
Okay, we'll go on to the news. I haven't got an awful lot of news this evening, but Swansea Rugby Club unfortunately had to announce that Jonathan Thomas has had to step down as head coach due to medical reasons. It's 10 years since Jonathan Thomas retired from playing rugby, former player for the All Whites, Ospreys, Worcester and Wales. And even then he had to retire on medical reasons. And he's since gone on to a successful coaching career. We do wish him well, but it's probably a podcast in its own right to talk about the issues around head contact and medical conditions resulting from that. So at this stage, I think we'll just say wish Jonathan and his family and friends all the very best around that. Some good news, I think. The Celtic Rugby Competition festive Welsh derby has been announced between Gwalior Lightning and Brython Thunder in round 2, and it's been moved to the Arms Park on the 27th of December. And I think they've also announced the dates as well for the whole competition, Hattie.
Yes, so the whole competition is up. I checked on the Scarlets website earlier, and all of the Brython tickets are available for purchase. And I would assume that Gwalior would be the same. I believe you can purchase those through the Dragons website, but please don't quote me on that one. I know for the Scarlets and Brython, it is £10 for an adult and free for students and under 16s. So
very good value.
yeah, very, very good value. I think there's like 5 home games and 5 away games for each, but obviously we've got that bonus Jonas one in Cardiff, which is very exciting. And the most exciting bit of Celtic Challenge news, aside from that, in my opinion, as a Brython fan, is that it's been announced that Gwen Crabb, I think she's got like 40 international caps, 39, something like that, played for Brython a little bit last year. She has left Gloucester Hartpury after 5 years, and would be returning home to play for Brython full time. Seeing as she's been announced prior to the competition, we don't know who else is playing yet for either team. I'm kind of hoping this is going to be Gwen Crabb, Captain Crabb era.
Hmm.
And I think that would be very exciting for everyone involved. I think it'll be good for her. It'll be good for the squad to have a more experienced player kind of take on that role, and somebody who is a bit of a natural leader as well.
Yeah, and I think from my perspective, obviously a lot of the focus around the plans for Welsh rugby, quite understandably, being focused on the men's professional teams. And I think, as we referred to last week, there were some positive things around pathways and
Mm,
development centres, and I think this is in the same ilk, in that they're trying to improve the women's game, and if we could get more Welsh players back playing in the
yeah.
Celtic Challenge, I think that has to be good for the competition and
Mm.
also for the national team.
Yeah, and I think there are so many of, if you look at the Welsh players that play in the PWR, you would realise quite quickly that most of them play Gloucester,
Mhm.
Bristol. A lot of them used to play in Worcester. Some of them play up in Sale as well, and it's obviously because of how close it is, or they're the closer teams to the border. Like Gwenny P plays up in Sale. She's from North Wales.
Mhm.
It's very common for the North Wales guys to go play up in Sale. And a lot of them still live in Wales and they just travel over the border. And I think I know Alicia Butcher said last year that actually, if the Celtic Challenge, if they had more matches and if the quality improved, that she would easily go back to playing in Wales because it's like 10 minutes from her house, and that's a lot better than driving to Bristol a couple of times a week to train and play. So yeah, I think, if the WRU are able to put a little bit of kind of, not necessarily pressure, but a little bit of an incentive for
Mhm.
those international caliber players to come back, um, yeah, I don't think it'd be difficult at all, and easily the quality would improve in the league.
Good. Well, let's hope both teams have a successful season, and I'm sure we'll be following them quite closely on the pod.
Yes, and hopefully they have merch available this year.
That would be good.
It would be.
Right, okay. We'll turn our attention then to last weekend. Obviously, we had the European competition, Scarlets in the Champions Cup, the rest of us in the Challenge Cup. And we'll start off with the game in Paris. The conditions look reasonable, Tony. I know on the Cardiff Central podcast, you spend a lot of time studying weather forecasts. I don't know if you got this one right, but it didn't look too bad conditions to play rugby. What did you think of the game and, in particular, Cardiff's performance?
I think Dan did get the broadcast or the weather forecast right this time. It's Steve that normally sits on Met Office Corner. I've got tinfoil theories, which often come out. It was good. Like the first half was really strong, and we obviously we went in leading at like 10-5, but with the sort of side that we picked, the second half was always going to be a bit more difficult. But there were some real standout performances, I thought, from like Matty Young looked really impressive, and he's looked really impressive for the Rags this year as well and last year. So for him to be able to step up and do that in Paris is really promising. Um, so Cardiff rested the lads who were initially in the Welsh squad with an eye to Ulster, I would imagine, and then the Derby seasons. But
Mhm.
Javan Sebastian scored, and he's been probably a runaway for me for like signing of the season for us this year so far. He's been properly held up a side of the scrum.
Mhm.
Um, we losing Johan Lloyd was obviously a disappointment after 20 minutes because out there when you're chasing what you're essentially chasing a try bonus point, um, to lose someone who can break the field like that for a lad who is still under 20s and in Harry Wild and hasn't played a lot of pro rugby, it's a big step up, especially when you've got Steph Emmanuel inside him at 12, and then Cornell Smith, who's basically just walked into the Arms Park and introduced himself, and then had 2 games for us. Ewan Stevens on one wing, who hasn't played for over a year and a half, and then Mason Grady, who has been a bit fragile. And like I said, Matty Young at fullback. It was a very makeshift back line, but it performed well. It would have been really nice to have got that bonus point try. I'm not sure we deserved it at the time. It would have been really nice to have snuck it though, which we've tended to try and do lately. But yeah, it was a positive performance in trying circumstances, which I imagine is a sentiment across a lot of stuff this year.
I thought, and I'm happy for Dan or Hattie to pop in as well, but I thought I was very impressed with Evan Lloyd. I thought it was his best ever game I've seen him play at this level. He showed his all court game. He was superb, I thought. Obviously, the normal candidate in Alan Lawrence was industrious. He's a tremendous player at this level. But I also thought James Botham was excellent for his physicality. If he carries on playing with that, he's going to push Alex Mann very hard for that 6th shirt, not only for Cardiff, but for Wales.
Totally. Dav Hughes got a hat-trick last week. So for Evan Lloyd to come in and start over him shows you the sort of confidence the side of the club have got in Evan Lloyd. And you're right, he was absolutely fantastic this week. Hopefully that sort of rotation can keep working, because Belcher's out for another week or two, I think. Josh, you mentioned Big Al and Josh McNally. We often talk about it on the Cardiff Central pod, where we don't really talk about who's going to play second row in number 8 for us at the moment, because it's Josh McNally, George Knott, and Alan Lawrence. They are basically sharpied in until we hear about Falatau's fitness, which is neither here nor there most of the time. So it's often to overlook that performance that he's made, but to come from his journey where he was out of rugby and then played for Jersey, and then Jersey folded, and then he came back to us to basically play for the Rags, and he's pushed his way back into to become captain of the side in a European game is a phenomenal journey for him, and I wouldn't be surprised if Wales have a look at him in the next few months. But
Dan, Hattie, anything you want to add?
I will say I spent a fair amount of the game being confused because I could not figure out why Cardiff were in pink and Stad were in blue. And so I kept watching and I was like, oh, Cardiff are playing really well. I'm like, oh, no, that's Stad.
What is Stad's normal?
Pink.
Pink.
Yeah, it is, isn't it? So we
all the fans had pink on, didn't they?
Oh, they wouldn't have clashed with the blue in any way, shape, or form. It seems a very strange one. Maybe maybe that's their European shirt or something.
I think it is. I mean, it was interesting because their pink and blue is so vibrant, and Cardiff's is like more pastel. So like, but yeah, it was very confusing.
It looks more peach in person. It's got a light white band across the middle as well. It's not the shirt if you're a larger gentleman across the middle like me. So
Dan, are Abertillery thinking of developing a pink European shirt?
No, absolutely not. When we make
Dan,
European
I'd buy a pink shirt.
Well, maybe we should then. Who knows? There'll be a mutiny. There may be a mutiny from the kit man getting it clean.
Okay, we'll move on. Okay, Scarlets, obviously in the big competition, had their first home game against Bristol. Bristol, a good team, certainly in the Prem. Scarlets have not had the best start of the season. I don't think I'm being unfair now in saying that.
No, we've won one game.
Okay, I didn't want to rub it in, Hattie, but it gives me no joy as an Osprey to say that. I can assure you. But it was a good game. I really enjoyed it, and but obviously over to you, Hattie. It's your team. You tell us what you thought.
I think if it wasn't my own team, I would have really thoroughly enjoyed it because it was a very, very good game. The only like thing that made it less enjoyable was that there was a lot of stop start, there was a lot of TMO intervention. Hugh, good friend Hugh, worked out there was at least 16 minutes of TMO intervention throughout the game, which is a lot.
Mm.
And a lot of them as well, you're like, you could have sped that up a little bit. It didn't need to be that long. Um, it's a slight criticism there on that one, just because it did slow the game down a little bit. Obviously, Scarlets did have two disallowed tries, which
Mhm.
one of them was for a forward pass, which felt one, not that forward, and two, it was quite a bit before the try was actually scored. So it's a bit like, was that really was that really
Mm.
fair in the end? But it is what it is. I think Fletcher Anderson had an absolutely incredible game at number 8, especially considering it's like our third game for us, I think, once
Mm.
being against Quins in that friendly. I think our forward pack generally played really well. Douglas maybe let us down a little bit. He had a couple of errors here and there that cost us a little bit. I think having Johnny Williams and Eddie James back as that quite not necessarily our first choice, but definitely up there as competitively
Mm.
in our midfield was great. Am slightly concerned, and I am going to bring this up because I thought about it at the time. Obviously, Johnny Williams did take a shot to the head, which ended up being given as a yellow to the Bristol player. I believe it was Matter. But Johnny Williams didn't go off for HIA,
Mm.
which is a concern anyway. But for people who maybe don't know, Johnny Williams has been out for at least a week, for just over a week with a head injury anyway.
Mm.
So if you've got somebody that's been out with concussion, he's taken a headshot that's resulted in a card, why has he not gone off for a HIA? He actually only ended up playing, I think, like 47 minutes.
Mm.
So he didn't stay on the pitch too much longer, including half time after that. But I just felt like it was a really poor decision to let him stay on. Um, Overall, though, I think I said last week that I thought it would be a 1 point game. It would either be a 1 point game or a blowout, and it was a 1 point game. It was very frustrating to get to the end and it be like that. But any loss like that is. I think crowd-wise, considering it was a really late kickoff, I think it was great. I think it was like 7,500. So yeah, I think better than I expected when we were on our losing run. But yeah, a close game always hurts.
Before I bring anybody else in, what do you think of the decision by Peel to take Costello off?
I think it was poor because I think Costello was having a really good game. Um, I think he plays in a way that either people figure it out very easily or it really, really frustrates the other team. And it was really, really frustrating Bristol. So to take him off, I think with another 20 minutes left and replace him when actually he's probably fit enough to play the full 80 anyway. So
Mm.
taking him off maybe wasn't the best idea. I just think it was poor decision making. And I think in the end, it probably cost us the game because we looked rudderless, especially for the last 10 after we changed nines as well.
Well, Hawkins is not a proven 10, is he? He might have
No,
this, you know.
he's he's a 12 that can make decisions, but he's also quite large.
Mm.
So like, I don't,
Do you
I,
think they? Do you think it was a premeditated
yeah.
substitution because they knew they needed to bring Hawkins on because he's got to have a rest week this week, hasn't he? Because he's been in the Welsh squad. Is
I
that
think,
right?
I
Maybe.
think it's definitely, I think it was premeditated just to have him come on. I think our substitutions anyway can be very random. Or they,
Hmm.
they feel random because you're watching it and you're like, this person's having an absolute killer game. Why have you replaced them and not the person that's having a terrible game or, the person that looks knackered? And
Hmm.
then actually, when you think about it, you're like, oh no, I think they pre-planned to bring this person, and this person off at this time. Um, but yeah, it just made no sense to me. And I don't think we actually, no, we didn't. We didn't score after Costello went off.
My friend was schmoozing in the hospital at the Scarlets game, and they were right behind where Costello was sitting after he came off, and
He was
So
not
I asked,
happy.
he was not. No, that was basically the message I got. I went, oh, could you just give me some thoughts about the game so I can pass them off as my own later. And he went, Costello was not happy when he came off, and
He,
neither
he,
was Davis.
he was
Mm.
on the pitch and he was like,
Yeah,
you
yeah, yeah,
need to
yeah. I
come
saw that.
off. And I sat there and I was like, at that point, I was like, oh, I don't think we're going to win this. And
Especially,
yeah,
especially what you're saying about. I hadn't quite clocked that, but with Johnny Williams going off and I've taken the knock, he could have easily Hawkins could have easily come on
could
and
have
been at
come in at
12,
12.
and Eddie James gone to 13.
Uh, Eddie James was at 13, I think.
Was he? Sorry, well, yeah,
Yeah.
apologies. Yeah, but you know what I
But
mean. My point is
yeah,
that yeah, you didn't need to take
we could
Costello
have
off.
had Roberts on the wing. Like it
Yeah.
just wasn't necessary for that change to have been made.
Mm.
Um, Speaking of our wings, though, Tommy Rogers statistically did a lot better than Louis Rees-Zammit, which just
What did you
saying,
think? I thought actually, I didn't think Louis was that, but when you
you
look at his
didn't know.
stats, but we're very good. He beat 5 defenders. He was the top defender beaten.
Yeah,
Why did he upset the Parker Scarlets crowd?
I don't
How did he do
know.
it?
I think he was just existing.
Oh, right, okay. It's
And
not
I think they were just giving him a bit of
right.
trying to throw him off.
It's Christmas. You need a pantomime villain.
Yeah. And
Okay,
he was linked to joining us in the
right,
summer.
right.
There was no way we would ever have that in the budget, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Dan, what did he? Obviously, defense coach, Scarlet's coach, defense was better. It was a low scoring game, uh, and probably in a tight game. It's just those inevitably. I'm not going to go with anybody now here. It's those couple of lineups that don't go right. Those are the difference between winning and losing games. Did you think the defense was better from the Scarlets? Could you see more pressure being put on Bristol? Because Bristol have a reputation of being a team that like the Harlem Globetrotters, don't they, in
Yeah,
rugby?
I thought the Scarlets got at them pretty well, to be honest. I watched the game on Friday. Was it on Friday evening? Friday evening, Saturday
Sunday,
evening,
Saturday, yeah.
Saturday evening. Yeah, when I got back from the rugby myself,
Mm,
and as a neutral, I thought it was fantastic.
mm,
Obviously, I wanted the Scarlets to win, being a Welshman. So,
mm,
and I thought they would have been good value for the win if they had managed to sneak a victory. I
mm,
certainly didn't think that it was a rearguard action. Far from it. Standout performances for me were Fletcher Anderson. He's a great find.
mhm,
That's a top bit of business that is replacing Fafita, no problem.
Mm.
mm,
And
mm.
and I think what it shows for me as well, and I think it's the same across the Welsh regions, is every team's competitive until we have a raft of injuries. Now, Scarlets
Yeah.
had a raft of injuries, etc., at the
Mm.
start of the season. Cardiff rotated on Friday and ended up, the score was blown out. I think it was 6 tries to 3 in the end, despite the fact that they had a real good go over there. And you look at some of the names in the Scarlets team: Matthias, Elias. He's a good man to have back in the scrum from a
Yeah.
set piece
Mm.
perspective. Lousy and Ball in the second row, very industrious. McLeod, Douglas, Anderson. There's a lot of good players in there.
Mhm,
And then that means then that, you're not depowering your scrum and your set piece when the likes of Van der Merwe and Henry Thomas come on, rather
mhm.
than those guys having to start. There's more depth in there. However, I did think Marnus van der Merwe missed a few key lineouts towards the end of the game, especially towards the red zone in the 22. That was, chances went missing due to some poor line on the Williams thing with a head knock. I would have thought the gum shield would have picked it up these days, wouldn't it? If he required a HIA,
Yeah.
Yeah.
the gum shields they wear, maybe that it obviously didn't trigger anything. I don't know. I'm just throwing it out there.
I don't, I could be wrong. I don't think they have to wear them in the URC.
Mm,
Okay, maybe
mm.
they
I
don't. I don't
think
know.
it's, yeah.
Maybe they don't. But yeah, and from a Bristol perspective, I was impressed with A. Williams at 12 as well, James Williams.
Yeah.
He's got a
I've
Welsh mother, doesn't he?
and he's got a Welsh mother, yeah. So I've watched and tried to catch up on his performances over the last couple of weeks, and
Mm,
I think he's definitely one worth worth keeping an eye on. Very workmanlike. It reminded me a little bit of the sort of work that Hadley Parks would used to do.
Hmm.
Solid, no frills. Not the same player as Hadley Parks, obviously, but he's not going to let his team down. So I think he's one to keep an eye on there from a Welsh perspective. But it was it's two great performances in 2 weeks for me now from the Scarlets. They're definitely much improved, and I just think it goes to show that if you can get people fit and the right 23 out, then yeah, good on them. It was unlucky. What do you think of the crowd? I know Hartley mentioned seven and a half, 8,000 was good, but I have seen people mentioning on X and stuff like that. Everyone wants the Anglo Welsh, and we
I
can't even
think
get double figures in there.
yeah, I think it was a very decent crowd at a Saturday night in poor conditions.
Mm.
But I think, as we've discussed before, and I remain neutral on this, uh, an Anglo Welsh is not necessarily the silver bullet that everybody thinks it is. Uh, you know, yeah, okay, there were probably times that there were a good few from Bristol there because as the game went on, you could hear them, and that's great, and it creates an atmosphere more so than you would be surely against a Scottish team or an Italian team. But the idea we're suddenly going to have 12,000 at Parker Scarlets because we're playing a team from southwest England is not necessarily true. There's no evidence for that.
Yeah, and I also think like it's still a fair distance to
Best
get
part
from
of two
Bristol.
hours, isn't it?
Yeah,
Mm,
like I think it would have been, if it was Bristol playing Cardiff or Bristol playing the Dragons, like it would have been different because it is a lot closer.
mm.
Um, but it's 8 p.m. on a Saturday night
Yeah,
in
times.
Mm.
pouring rain, like just like a couple of weeks before Christmas when like money isn't particularly great. Like
Hmm.
I
Yeah, and
think
that's
it
a
was,
good
And
I
point as
think it
well.
was a decent crowd, like for what it was, and I think also because of the way that Parker Scarlets is built, unless it's full, it never looks that busy because of like just the construction of it. Um, but
Yeah, well,
yeah,
it's like a miniature football stadium. It's like when the
yeah,
Ospreys are in the Liberty in there, because it's all seat there.
yeah.
It does look different. But no, I thought it was a B plus performance from the Scarlets. If I'm honest, I thought they did well. And like I said, if it had been a victory pod for the Scarlets, I don't think anyone in Bristol could have complained. They did okay.
No,
Good on
they
them.
were heard Lamb speaking afterwards, and they knew they'd been in a game,
Mm,
and they were delighted to come out with a win.
Mm.
that
absolutely.
Revovo offload for Bill Matter's first try, I think it was, just the little out the back sort of is just unreal bit of skill, just absolutely superb.
The,
Like
I don't know whether you guys thought this watching it, but I think the Scarlets had just either kicked a penalty or scored a try. It may have been a penalty in the second half. And then receiving the kick off, Max Douglas drops the ball.
Yep.
Um, and then a few phases later, they go in. Ravuvu goes in the corner. And it was a bit like watching Wales against the All Blacks here, with Plumtree drops the ball and it like sucks the life out of you. It's the third set piece now. You have to take a kick off. And he was under no pressure. Like a bit like Plumtree again. He's just dropped the ball. It's one of those things. You go, oh bugger, it just sucks the life out of them. And
Yeah.
coach
they
killer,
go,
isn't it?
yeah, absolute killer. So, and that was the turning point for me, I think, in the game.
And I think like just very quickly to go back to like strange substitutions, Jared Taylor stayed on the bench. He didn't come off. He didn't come on rather onto the pitch.
Mm,
And you actually just think, well,
Mm.
if Max Douglas isn't having a great game,
yeah.
why is Jared Taylor getting splinters in his bum? Like
Mm, mm. Bit
it
of
doesn't make,
energy.
yeah, like when you have a mistake like that relatively deep into the game, you just think, okay, we'll make a change now, will. But it wasn't. He just
Who have
was
they got
kept
next week
on.
now?
Oh, an easy one.
Porto.
Oh, shit the bed. All right, we'll talk about that in a minute.
How long's Holt's out for? Is there any news on him?
No, and they haven't said what
He was
it
on
is. I don't
gas
think.
and air as well when
Yeah,
he went off, wasn't
yeah,
he?
because I originally thought that it was like a shoulder because he was like clutching
Mm.
this area. And then a couple of people that were at the game were saying like, actually, no, it just looked like he was clutching his chest. So I really don't know what. I'm assuming it's going to be a while. But he's had,
It looked
uh,
innocuous, didn't it?
yeah, it wasn't foul play or anything. But he has had like a chest bacterial infection, something like that.
All right.
Um, so I don't
Okay.
know whether he just,
Yeah, yeah.
you know, couldn't breathe or something.
Okay. Well,
Good luck
okay.
to him, and I hope he's
Yeah,
okay.
absolutely. And then the next game was the Dragons, who unfortunately went down to another heavy defeat away from home. I'm going to be quite challenging now, Dan. I have forewarned you, haven't in the group. Would it be fair to say that Dragons are probably the worst team in the Challenge Cup? How confident you'd be that you would beat? I can't see you beating any of the big teams, but how confident you'd beat the Black Lions or the Cheetahs?
Yeah, well, I think it's probably the Newcastle game in it is the bottom, is the basement battle maybe in a couple. Have we got Newcastle into the other side of
Next, I think then
Christmas
after January, yeah,
after January? Yeah,
Although Newcastle did win at the weekend, didn't they?
in Lyon.
they
Yeah.
did, they did. But yeah, well, hey, look, if you listen to the Dragons layer this morning, then Jamie was very much vocal in saying that we're the best, the worst team in Europe, and we're certainly down there, aren't we?
Mm,
There's no doubt about it. But what I will say is, the Dragons only conceded 3 more points than Cardiff did on the
yeah.
weekend, and nobody slating Cardiff's performance. They went out and had a go, and I think that's the difference in that. Cardiff did go out and have a little bit of a go, despite the fact that the game and they were winning at half time, and despite the fact the game got away from them at the end with bench changes. But as soon as I saw the squad that Philo was taking out to Perpignan, it didn't fill me with much hope, to be honest. Martinez has sort of dropped his way down to second or third choice. Lou said Yendo's not played this season, has not played for the best part of 12 months plus. First game back, straight out into a French front row. Thank you very much. Good luck, all the very best. Sam Scarf's, the fifth choice hooker at the region at the moment. And arguably, he's probably behind Wills Austin a little bit if Wills Austin had a little more time in the environment, because I thought he's shown up pretty decently in his last 2 outings, actually. Um, you know, Rafter changes in the back line. O'Brien to 10, Westwood and Richards in at 12 and 13. Effectively, that's an SRC centre partnership. I don't know why we won't play Inisi at 13 whilst Paye is out. We have
Mm,
to
mm,
give him a go there. And then, as I've said, Wills Austin, Dylan Keller, Griffiths, Barney Langton, Cryer, they're all SRC players this season. Or Wills Austin's obviously come in on loan. Harry Keddy's first game back. I think I've counted here now that I think we've had 7 lads in the match day squad that have effectively been in and out of SRC teams in the
mm,
past sort of 12 months, and I'd include
mm,
Mackenzie Martin in that. Now, while Mackenzie
mm,
Martin's been good, he's effectively played all of last season in the Rags down at Cardiff. So
mhm.
it was always going to be a tough ask for the Dragons. I got no doubt we'd have made a better fist of it if we'd have had Wyn Jones, Rob Hunt, Elliot D, et cetera, playing. So, yeah, was it the worst performance of the season for the Dragons? Without a shadow of a doubt. Are we looking like we're going to pick up a win anytime soon? No. Did the boys try hard? Yeah, or is there a coaching thing? Maybe it's a coaching thing. Is Philo and the rest of the gang getting the best? I thought the attack was absolutely shocking. Our attack is, at least when you watch the other teams, there's a bit of identity there, but we play side to side, we overplay, kicking games poor, and ultimately our scrum got taken apart. I think we had a 70% success rate in the scrum.
Mhm.
No scrum, no win. It's as simple as that, basically. And yeah, I just hope they had a nice trip out to the south of France. They had a couple of beers afterwards, or a glass or two of red wine, a little carafe of red wine afterwards, and made the most of a bit of winter sun, because that was about all it was good for, really.
Do
Tony,
you th
anything? Sorry.
Oh, I was going to say, do you think they were dazzled by the Perpignan kit and just forgot how to play rugby because that was one hell of a kit?
We can try and pick up any old excuse, but they just weren't good enough with it. It's as simple as that. They were second best to everything on the day. And when I look through the personnel in there, I do look at it and think SRC, SRC, SRC for lots of it. You know, seven out of the match day, 23 at least. Wills Austin's probably. I thought he's shown up well in the last 2 games. Actually, Wills Austin. He's come into the environment. He's only had 10 days
Mm,
in the
mhm.
squad, so good on him. I think he's shown up well. Robert Hunt did okay when he come on, but other than that, what positives can the Dragons take from that?
Tony, can you see any positives in that performance?
Um, no, like, for want of a better phrase, no. It didn't help that I think during the red card period, I think they conceded 10 points or
Yeah.
so. And like it there just doesn't seem to be any confidence in anything that they do. Um, that that penny decision from a couple of weeks ago, you saw the impact that that had on the team at that point. It was oh well, here we go again. And the moment any like stuff goes badly for them, like conceding when they're playing against 14, there's sort of a oh well, here we go again. And it's such a demoralizing watch. I cannot imagine. Well, I can sort of relate to bits and pieces, but Dragons fans, like my heart goes out to them every single time because man, do they turn up, and they don't
Mm.
deserve to be treated like they are by the team half the time. But yeah,
And,
Just,
and, and, and go on.
sorry.
No, go on.
No, the question I'm going to ask is around, we hear a lot from one particular owner,
Mm.
on X and so on. And we heard that they walked out a meeting of the Welsh Rugby Union where, we all have concerns about the Welsh Rugby Union's input into coaching and so on. I suppose the question I would ask is how confident are we that they are the right people to lead in rugby? They might have the business acumen, they might run a very good club outside of the playing, but there's nothing I've seen in the Dragons since they've taken over that gives me any confidence they're the right people to appoint the right coaches, to recruit well, or to implement a really good game plan. But that's what they're claiming.
So do you think the recruitment's been poor this year then?
Well, I think they've been unlucky this year. It's certainly been poor in the past, and they are on record of saying that themselves.
Yeah,
Uh, it,
absolutely. Season before this,
yeah,
yeah, last season, absolutely it was shocking,
yeah.
But this season, I would say recruitment has been actually very good.
But then the question is, then have they appointed the right coaches? Because that's
No,
something that's it within their gift.
no since Dino left, um, it's been promotion from within. Di Flanagan, then Di Flanagan went, and then Philo come in,
Mm.
and I think that is definitely problematic. However, I'll throw this your way: is that if you are a coach now, uh, you know, a senior rugby coach, elite rugby coach, professional rugby coach, is the Dragons or is any Welsh region now actually? Because Cardiff have promoted from within this season as well, as did the Ospreys promote from within at the tail end of last season and for this season. How easy is it to get a coach in? And that there's probably a little bit of lack of transparency here because we don't know the answer to that. But if you're a coach looking for some consistency and a long term contract and a long term project, there's no guarantee that there is one.
I think
So
that's a sorry.
no, so for me, whilst the coaching appointments may not be great, and they could, could do better. It's definitely a work on for the ownership. I don't think it's as simple as going out and getting yourself a top end coach because I don't think it's almost impossible to be attractive in the current climate.
I think that's a fair point, and but obviously, I think are even the coaches they got are they getting the best out of some good players which they have signed. And I think there are some genuinely good players there, so that that's something they need to consider. And I don't, I'm not advocating any changes now, but longer term, because as far as we know, there will be a team in East Wales. It's something they definitely need to address.
Yeah, and there's no doubt about it. And I think that look, if the Dragons could put their strongest 23 out, including the likes of Levi Douglas coming off the bench, including Paella being back fit in the centre, um, I think it's definitely a vastly different team to what played on the weekend. And I think it's much more competitive. So and I don't think we've been able to do that this season, have we? There's no doubt about it. So um, yeah, it's definitely a work on. In terms of the ownership, I think they are the right ones to take the club forward in whatever guise that may be. The business acumen as we've mentioned, in terms of, because let's not forget, professional sport, whilst results on the pitch dictate a lot of it, it's all well and good, especially in the rugby union environment. But if the club doesn't exist long term, then it's absolutely worthless. You take Wasps as an example. How many European Cups did Wasps win? Multiple Premiership winners. They don't exist anymore. We've seen in the Rugby League Code, which is not in a dissimilar situation to rugby union, Salford with a 150-year history of just gone by the wayside. Poor off-field management. And the Dragons have been in a position previously, haven't they, where they've had to have been bailed out by the union because of poor off-field management. Cardiff are in that situation now. Maybe not through their own fault. The investors that have come in. So I think it has to be a two-pronged attack within professional sport, particularly in professional rugby, because of the knife edge that it sits on. So whilst I think we're solid off the field in terms of the things that we're doing, the ownership of the ground and the overall business planning, there's no doubt about it, results on field are poor to shocking. We may well be the worst team currently in Europe, but I think if you had Mr. Buttress on here now, he'd admit that. I think I listened to the boys on the Dragons layer at the tail end of last season, and he didn't, when they interviewed him, and he didn't bother going to the end of season dinner because he didn't like facing the fact that they were celebrating a season where they hadn't won a league game. So I think he's very much self-aware that I would suggest he's self-aware as to where the Dragons are, and in terms of things that he's saying about the union, he's also not wrong, is he?
No,
Nope.
I'm not saying I've never doubted that, but the point I think I made in another pod is that's fine if you're speaking from a position of strength, but I don't think he is.
No, but what the point I'm trying to make is that I think he'd say the same about the Dragons. On-field results are not good enough. There's no doubt about that. And I think Mr. Buttress would say the same if he was here now. I suppose there's only one way to find out, and that's if we can get him on. But I don't think he'd. There's no way David Buttress is happy with the Dragons shipping 41 points away to a mediocre French team on the weekend.
No.
No
Okay,
way.
well, we'll park that there. Okay, it's only left to the team, Welsh team, who flew the flag for Wales this weekend, the Ospreys. I wouldn't thought I was going to be saying that when I started sitting in the stand after 39 minutes, after a dreadful first half, where we just didn't have the ball. It was wet and windy conditions against a team we know well. Obviously, got a new coach in Lancaster. They started well and got the first try. Uh, you know, they were played a good game. They were varying the game. I think probably one of the most important things in the first half was Finlay Bealham going off. And Hattie, I have to say, as we're on hair watch, his hair is possibly the worst hairstyle I've seen because he walked past me as he was coming off. So I don't know if you have a view on his hairstyle, but we'll come back to that.
I have thoughts on Finlay Bealham's hair, and you know the phrase, if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all.
Okay, yeah, I like that one. We got the wrong end of the referee. Garen Phillips really had one of those days. I'm sure he would like to forget. I don't think they were all absolutely 100% clear. By the end, I could see Duncan Jones remonstrating with the touch judge, assistant ref. I'm not sure completely that he was at fault, but that happens in the game. Went down to 14 men, knock on from Ratty, deliberate knock on, which you can't argue with. They used the extra man to get their second try, and they absolutely dominated possession, as I said, in territory. And there was no surprise when they got a third try. So I think somebody in the crowd said, by me, said we were 21 points down, and after 22 minutes, and that was we were lucky to get Tony to be that far behind, if I'm honest with you. We then got it as soon as we got back to 15. Gareth Phillips got yellow carded. But obviously, Gareth Thomas, who's not had a great autumn, let's be honest, came on and he had a massive impact, even with a 14-man team. And I think we probably stuck somebody else in with Moriarty going off for him. We won a sort of scrum penalty when they were sort of 5-6 yards out. And almost with that, the sort of game sort of turned. We managed to score a try for driving more just before half time, and it gave us a foothold in the game. I don't think we really deserved it, but it happened. And the second half was just a complete turnaround. Our scrum started to dominate. We got a lot of penalties, field position with that, of course. Uh, Rubin showed a bit of class, took a quick penalty. I think the rest of the crowd thinking, "Oh, kick it to the corner," and he offloaded to Kokasinga, and he went over. Again, Connacht's discipline went to pot, and they lost giveaway penalties. Buckley had to go off. I think, and because of that, they didn't have another fit prop to come back on, so they were down to 13. Ross Mariarty picked up, and Ryan Smith went over for a third. Dan Edwards kicked that. And we scored the winner with sort of 7 or 8 minutes to go. For all the criticism of the referee, I'm very glad he didn't see the 2 forward passes, which looked a bit dodgy to me. But there we are. These things happen over the course of the season. You get the rub the green sometimes. And we went ahead and we stuck at it. They came really, really hard at us in the last 3 or 4 minutes. But our defence held out. And yeah, we're back. We're back. Some really good performances from our tight heads. It's great to see Rhys Henry back. And I think has been an absolute Osprey stalwart. Tommy Beaufort celebrated his 150th cap for us. We talk about players who, rightly or wrongly, are not going to get an international opportunity, but as absolute player at this standard, he's superb. Thought the older players did well. Ryan Smith starting to look as if he's a good acquisition. Jack Walsh was good. Sam Paddy, Ross Mariarty was sound. And Dan Edwards had a game which, in the first half, it wasn't great. Little things. We had a penalty when we finally won a penalty in the first half, and he kicked it long. But he grew in the game. He had a much better second half. And I think what Dan Edwards' possibly strength is, he doesn't seem to bother him when he makes mistakes. I'm sure it does, but it doesn't seem to show in his game, and he came back strongly. Yeah, Deves was normal self, and to come out of that game from where we were at 21-0 down was great. To get to win in the first instance, but to get 5 points is dreamland really. So yeah, great and enjoyable. And there wasn't a great crowd, but those who were there thoroughly enjoyed it and got behind the team. And as I say, onwards and upwards to the Ospreys. But happy to be anybody to make comments on anything I've said or what your view was of the game.
I thought Ross Moriarty was going to lamp the ref when he disallowed the try to book the prop.
Yeah.
That then went to uncontested scrums. His face was absolutely furious. Yeah, that's the only bit that really sticks in my head. Yeah, I thought Moriarty was going to go for him.
So when we were doing our previews for this season, we kind of discussed the Ospreys playing down in Bridgend and, what would it be like, especially when it came to European. Obviously, they were playing a URC rival, but I thought it was interesting. I kind of popped onto Twitter and there were a lot of Irish fans kind of saying like, is this like the Ospreys' actual ground? Is this where they normally play? Like, is this just they have to play there every couple of weeks, like Munster do? Like, what is going on? And it was quite entertaining that basically it pretty much coincides with the Ospreys starting to play well and Connacht starting to drop off around the time when the pitch really started to get churned up and become a complete mud bath.
You're getting flashbacks to last New Year's Day.
Yeah, and so I'm just wondering, Nick, is that actually the Ospreys' game plan? Is to just churn up the pitch so that the other team can't play?
I would actually say quite the opposite. In Tony Booth's era, you probably would say that. But actually, we want to play a wider game. So, and let's be honest, as we've already alluded to, the weather in Wales over the last 48 hours, 72 hours has been pretty horrendous. So the pitch actually held up okay-ish. And if I think a 4G pitch would suit the Ospreys far more to the type of game they want to aspire to.
There is talk about putting one of those in at the brewery.
Is it?
Yeah.
No.
So I am one of these weird hybrids that have a season ticket with Cardiff, and I also have a season ticket with Gent,
Right.
because my wife is from there. So
Right.
I'm down for Gent quite a lot. But yeah, I think it was mentioned in one of the meetings recently that they're looking at doing that because then they can start to use the stadium for more
Yeah.
function stuff and that, especially as a community sort of club, like a hub sort of thing. Yeah. So um,
Are you making a play there? Is that what you're suggesting, Tony? That there's an amalgamation between two clubs and they play their games in Bridgend? It sound I could be led to believe
Not
that's
in the
what you're.
slightest. My father-in-law is a one of the founding members of the ABC club. He was furious the other day to find out that his birthday is the same is basically Cardiff Rugby's birthday. And when I told him that on his birthday, he was absolutely apoplectic. It was my birthday present to him. Yeah.
Nice.
Oh, anything else anybody wants to add on that game?
I think it's a great rugby ground. I think that's
Yeah,
what
I love it.
great rugby ground. Let's not forget, mind rugby's meant to be played for people of all shapes and sizes
Yeah.
and all conditions. And if you can't adapt, then good on them. Great win, fantastic. They're on the up. I
I
like I like Phil Cockner Singer at the minute.
Yeah, he's playing
I
well.
think he's playing well. Um, your Moriarty's, everyone you've mentioned, it's good win. Never say die attitude. So yeah, good on him.
I coach under nines, Dan, and the amount of times I've tried to reiterate to the smaller kids that rugby is for everybody. Like it, just because you're not as big as someone else, you've got your own skills, you've got your own brain, you've got your own strengths, and
Absolutely.
the players that can build through that are the ones that you really love watching, and that's the same at all levels.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely, and that's why I think the Brewery Field's a
Yeah,
good thing this year because I think as professional athletes they're used to having things their own way really, and think it being comfortable for them, and let's get people out of their comfort zone, and you're certainly going to do that at the Brewery. Have you lost at the Brewery Field this year? No,
yeah, we lost to Glasgow. We were
right,
outpowered
Glasgow.
by Cloward. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay,
Oh,
but no, I think it's good. Good win.
okay, thank you for that. Okay, we'll move on. Just a reminder, if you are liking the pod, please leave a comment, share with friends, and subscribe. We're on YouTube, both audio and visual. I think we're on Apple as well, although I never look on Apple and Spotify. So as I say, please share. And we'll have a break from my voice. You'll be glad to hear. And we're going to do next week's games in reverse order. So we'll start with the Sunday afternoon fixture, I believe, at uh, the Dragons. So, Dan, is the elusive win happening this Saturday? You're hosting Lyon at Rodney Parade. Is it going to happen this Sunday?
Short answer no. Long answer maybe. Reason why I'll say maybe is if they're going to rotate the squad out and play anything close to what played on the weekend, then I'll say no. If they're going to go as fully loaded as possible and we get a couple of boys back, then there's a possibility the result it will be different playing at home. French teams don't like to travel. There's no doubt about that. And Lyon lost to Newcastle on the weekend. So if Lyon are thinking, well, we're going away, it's all almost done and dusted for us already. So if they send the bin juice over and we don't pick the bin juice, then there's always a chance. But other than that, no.
Any players due back, do you think?
As we've said previously on here, the injury updates are not great. So we'll wait and see midweek as it stands. Not that I know of. We lost Woodman with dead leg. I would have thought Woodman wouldn't be far off. Coming back, it was just a dead leg against Leinster, but he wasn't wrist. Pretty nasty dead leg, and they can be sore. Seb Davis, I think, is looking at a long term thing. He was limping and iced up very quickly at Leinster, so I don't think we'll be seeing him. I thought we'd rotate someone like Levi Douglas back in maybe. And Brodie Coughlin's probably back in as well, having had a stand down period after playing for Wales. So that'll bolster our front row options. Um, and then yeah, we just wait and see. I know Paye is still a way off.
Hmm.
Obviously Super Chrissy Coleman, the one cap. Oh no, he's not a one cap wonder now, is he? He's got two
Two.
caps. Yeah, two caps. There you go. Um, So yeah, he's out for a while. But again, if Rob Hunt's available, Chris Coleman's not going to play anyway, is he? So yeah, if we can put something like a Wyn Jones, a Coughlin, a Rob Hunt, bring Levi Douglas back in to go alongside um, Carter and bolster that back row a little bit, then I think we'll be okay. But it's going to depend on what Leon bring over, to be perfectly honest with you, Nick. I think if
Yeah.
having lost to Newcastle on the weekend, if they send the kids over, then yeah, we stand a chance. If not, it'll be a
I think, and
sad
I'm
state of
just,
affairs.
I know I sort of asked some questions at the beginning, but I think as all of us as Welsh fans, we'd all be absolutely delighted if Dragons could win on Sunday.
Yeah, and I got no doubt it'd do the boys a world of good as well.
Mm.
Yeah.
Like we got Hugh Anderson, who's arguably our biggest up and coming star, if you like. He's box office when he gets the ball in hand. How many times he touched the ball in the last in the last couple of games? Didn't even
Mm.
play on the weekend.
Mm.
So yeah, it must be frustrating. Rio Dyer again on the weekend. How many times did he touch the ball? It's the attack's real difficult at the moment. So yeah, let's uh, let's see what happens in terms of selection. So I'm sitting on the fence a little bit.
No problem. Okay, we talked about red wine. We've got a team that's going to the home of red wine, a lovely city. I was lucky enough to go there for a World Cup game against Fiji. You must be feeling very confident, Hattie, going out to Bordeaux on Saturday.
Yeah, I'm so excited to face off against the current champions. I brought up their squad, right?
Oh, that's a
So,
joke.
scrum halves, we've got Luku and Pedrello, who are both international capped players, right?
Hmm.
Fly halves, Carberry and Jellybean, right? Jalibert.
Hmm.
Wings, we've got Louis Beep Beep and Damien Pano. None of this is going, like, there is literally one back that isn't internationally capped,
Amazing.
right? You look at their forwards, you've got Woki, you've got Johnny Gray, you've got Ben Tamafanua, the Tonga captain.
Yeah.
I don't know if I actually want to watch this game or whether I just pretend it doesn't exist. Because I highly doubt they're going to put out their biggest, best squad because it'd be absolutely pointless, right?
Hmm.
But even their second choice squad is like 10 leagues above the Scarlets right now, and they're at home. And even if you're like, oh, they're going to put out their second choice fly half, it's still Joey Carberry.
I think they'll go strong. I do, with it being a home game, and
Yeah.
they'll see it as an opportunity to really pull away because they had 5 points on the weekend, didn't they?
Yeah.
Away to the Bulls.
Yeah.
I think they'll go fully loaded, and it's going to take
Don't say that, Dan.
I think they will. I think it's going to take some performance.
I think the only like thing, if you look at their kind of like recent results, is that they haven't really had any like big blowout wins.
They've been
Um,
saving it for this weekend.
apart from the last one was that they won 71-24 in September against the team that are currently second from bottom in the top 14. So otherwise, it's like, they're in the 20s and the 30s as like a 10-point difference. However, they aren't playing the Scarlets. This could quite easily be like 60, 70 points, and I'll just cry myself to sleep.
And
Hmm.
we talk about selection, all right? Like I just mentioned it for the Dragons here. Now, the Scarlets have already lost one game. It's highly unlikely that they were going to pick up a result out in Bordeaux fully loaded anyway. So do you rotate?
Do we have that much to rotate though? Like we talk about the squad depth in Wales, like there just isn't that much depth.
And then if you do rotate, that's when
And
it's
then
going
you're
to be a
putting,
proper.
yeah, and then you end up putting children out there to get absolutely smashed by Bordeaux.
Yes. Yeah. Good luck.
I think though. I think yeah. Good luck. I think those two games are not on terrestrial, but I think the next two games are. So we'll go to Cardiff. I think that's his on Espadurec. You've got Ulster. I don't know if you've ever played them before, Tony. Uh,
Well,
but apparently they're a team from the northern part of Ireland. So how do you see this one going?
so the last two times we played him, it's gone with home field advantage. I think we were 19 points down at the Arms Park, and then ended up winning 21-19. Obviously, they are a vastly different side coming off a significant victory last week of, I think they won 61-7 or something silly like that. It just feels like they were bullying whoever it was.
Cast, wasn't it?
That's the one, Cast. Too many French names flying around my head, especially as I was just looking at the top 14 table. I think we've got a really good chance, mainly because we'll want to get back into the flow of it ahead of the derbies. We'll have the Welsh lads coming back in after they've had their week off in Dubai or wherever they've disappeared away to. So I'd expect Sheedy to start. I'd expect Thomas to be at 12, Adams to be on a wing as long as he would have been finished his suspension anyway.
Yeah.
And hopefully Winnett is back from injury. So we could see quite a few changes from the team that played against Stad on the weekend. But I never feel confident with Cardiff games, but we're going to do what we've been doing for the last couple of years, and that's try and play rugby. 8 o'clock on a Saturday night. It's not the greatest of kickoff times. I mentioned earlier about the tinfoil corner. I have a real theory that there was a big hand from the WRU with our kickoff times to try and reduce our tickets to because us selling out games doesn't fit into the narrative of, well, no one watches these pro teams, so why do we need them all? So we'll put the highest supported one at 8 o'clock when they've asked for 5:30 kickoffs. Anyway, tangent. We've got a real opportunity, and basically in Europe you win your home games and then you try and pick up what you can away from home, right? And just go from there.
I will say about the 8 o'clock kickoff on a Saturday, because I know a lot of your late kickoffs are normally on a Friday. It does work out really well if you want to get a takeaway.
Not if you want to get a bus, though.
Yeah, it's true. But if you want to get a takeaway, especially if you're watching from home, it is a nice time.
Yeah, it's like, not to focus on the fixture thing, but I know Cardiff specifically asked for, in the URC, this is for like early evening, so the 5:05, 5:15, 5:30 sort of kickoffs, and we got none of them. They're all 7:45s or 8 o'clock, apart from the ones over Christmas. And Cardiff rely on that walk up because you're in town, and without that, we were averaging 9,000 last year, and similar the year before. First couple of games this year is 7,000, so that's a drop of 2,000. That's significant funding. I have a tinfoil hat here that gets brought out for the Cardiff podcast as well. So it's always by my side for things.
Okay,
I just
sorry,
Nick,
Dan.
I was just going to say, I just wonder whether, if, and it's only me more thinking with my coach's hat on really than anything. I was just looking at the fixtures here. Cardiff obviously have lost this first weekend. You're right in saying try and win your home fixtures, but I think for me, with Cardiff being in such a good position in the league, I would almost be tempted to go, right, let's see if, because your next game then is Scarlets at home. Just looking at the fixtures, is my understanding. On Friday the 19th, and you go, if we can win that, get 5 points, we're really in the mix before we play, the Dragons and Ospreys over the Christmas period as well.
I see the thinking. I guess the difficulty there, though, is that you go from a lot of our players have played Zebra and Stad on the weekend. They won't have played for a month or so before that. The Welsh lads in the camp, Sheedy held tackle bags, so did Beetham.
True enough, yeah.
Josh Adams has been suspended for the last few weeks, so hasn't played any rugby there. The only one that's played regular rugby is Ben Thomas, and he's come out of as well as Azarati, and Thomas came out of Welsh camp probably in worse form than he went in with it. So I completely get the idea of maybe you don't go as fully loaded as I'm thinking, but
they need minutes.
Yeah, there's a needs minutes, because this Christmas period is going to be so difficult. Scarlets are going to turn up because it's only a short walk down Cathedral Road for the majority of their fans. So it's always a big attended game for that one. And then we've got Ospreys on New Year's Day, which at the Bury Field are like I've still got flashbacks from last year, as I mentioned earlier. The Dragons, although I think we've beaten them 19, 20 times in all competitions or something like that, they're never blowouts. They're always nip and tuck. So having those minutes back in the legs and getting that continuity, even in a game that maybe we don't win, getting that continuity back is I think is key in a live environment.
Okay.
Yeah, I can see the flip side of that coin. Yeah, it is a balancing act. There's no doubt about it. But I just think such a good league position at the moment. It'd be a
I
shame
know.
to
I know.
risk it.
I'm we're not finishing second, so it's trying to mitigate how far we fall down the table, right? Like,
Hey, but if you pick up 3 wins over the festive period,
yeah, well,
15
yeah,
points,
yeah.
you're right up there. But anyway, we digress.
Okay, and I think we kick off the games this weekend in Montauban. And yeah, apparently it's about an hour from Toulouse. A bit of a surprise package, really. I think they came up from Pro 2 last
Mm.
year in a promotion playoff game, and probably surprised themselves a little bit. I think everybody thought Grenoble would be the team that went through. Obviously, they're battling for stay in that league. I think they got one win and a draw, both of which at home. And as we said, with French teams, it's difficult to see what they're going to do. Are they going to, they like winning at home. They all love winning at home. That's a massive priority. But are they going to perhaps rotate a bit because probably the next game is more important because that's a relegation battle. Even if they could finish second from bottom as they are at the moment, they'd still be in a playoff game. So it'd be very interesting to see what sort of team they put out. Hearing good news from the Ospreys that the internationals who were rested last Sunday will be back involved, but possibly and the ones who were involved last Sunday won't be. But also some good news with some of our long-term injuries. Morgan Morris is not far off, and I saw an article today which I assume they've had. I heard Mark Jones saying that Owen Watkins not far off, and BBC sort of launched a report that he's going to be playing this weekend. So yeah, I think we will go pretty strong. There'll be a bit of rotation, of course, because as we've already alluded to, there's some important games to come up, and it's an away game. So, yeah, I'd love to win. And Grant from the Ospreys Erie is going over there. I'm sure, if nothing else, he'll have a fantastic weekend. I think he's actually going on Wednesday night, but he'll have a great time. It's certainly a game we could win, uh, but anything we get out of that game is really good. We get 1 point, 2 points, and then that sets up the Montpellier home game in January. So yeah, so I'll go in with a little bit of hope as ever, and I'll back the boys.
Yeah, I mean they did Montauban did lose 41-17 to Zebra at the weekend. So
Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
indeed.
So I'd
Okay,
work off that.
it's time to put your money where your mouth is now. We'll start off with our with Tony. You come off the bench. I hope you've enjoyed it, Tony. There's been certainly. If I don't want to be rude to Harley, but I would say that you coming off the bench has been an improvement in standard. But that's not, that's been
I'll make
rude.
sure he's told.
Oh, it's been a definite upgrade.
I'm not getting
Talking about
involved.
well done, Harley. Very, very diplomatic. Tony, how do you see it going? Home to Ulster.
Uh, I think we win. I think we squeak it. Um, yeah, we come away with 5 match points. So it's 4 tries, but they score 3, and it's a nail biter right at the end.
Okay. Hattie,
Oh,
you
we
got.
are losing so bad.
Oh dear.
Like if it was possible for Bordeaux to get 10 match points, they would. That's how badly we're going to lose.
So do you see it going like Wales, South Africa, or maybe Wales, New Zealand? I think those are the two extremes, aren't they?
I think it depends. I think if we rotate with an eye on the derbies, then I can see it being like South Africa. If we don't, if we play the same squad that we played at the weekend, I think it'd be more like New Zealand, where we're kind of in it for a bit and then it just goes away from us. But either way, we are going to lose so bad that it hurts.
Oh dear, sorry. I can't even argue with you because it's it'd be a hell of a task for any of us to go there.
I can imagine like us scoring one absolute worldie of a try
Yeah, yeah.
and the rest of it being dog shit.
Okay. Let's stick on me. Okay, Dan. How are the Dragons going to do?
Leon by 12.
Okay, okay. I'm gonna go us by 3, but no bonus points.
Nice.
Anyway, go on. Sorry.
I was just going to say, just looking at last year's Pro D2 table, Montauban actually finished 6th in Pro
Yeah,
D2 and managed to go up via the playoffs. So good on them.
yeah.
That's some
Hell of
achievement.
achievement, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I
Hang
don't
on,
think
hang on. Nick, all the listeners want to know, are you being Judith Chalmers this weekend and going out to Montauban?
I am not. I am
Oh,
not.
I'm really
You're
disappointed.
we're going to have to watch from
No,
your living room, Nick.
No
I'm
way.
going. I am watching from my living room, and the thing is, my daughters have
When
had
was
a
the
word.
last time you had to do that?
I know.
I've only been to the last couple of games, but my daughters have had a word in me, and they said, "Dad, when you pop your clog, we want some money in the pot."
So you've had to stop the holiday fund.
I have. I have.
Ah,
Anyway,
brilliant.
there we are. We've come to an end. So have a good week, everyone. Not long until the weekend and some more rugby to hopefully enjoy. So thanks very much to Tony in particular and obviously our regular hosts for joining us tonight. Hope you've enjoyed it and have a good week and enjoy your rugby. I'll start.
No star.
Hostile.
Ta-da.